So it was actually back in 2019 on an early Sunday morning during the Women's World Cup final. I was with some buddies and walked into a local bar, and immediately Catherine caught my attention, and I actually, as soon as I sat down, leaned over to a buddy of mine and told him, "Don't let me leave here without talking to that woman right over there." And nobody ever thought I would actually follow through with it, but when it was time for us to leave, I walked straight over to her and introduced myself, asked for her number, and the rest, as they say, is history.
And I will tell you, when he walked in, I did see him. And my friend nudged me and she was like, "He's cute." And I was like, "I already saw him." Okay? So then I saw him sit down and thought that I was giving the vibe, like the eye to like come over. And so when he did, I think my immediate response was like, "Oh, thank God, like you got my signal." And like later when we talked, he was like, "I never saw you looking at me." So your reaction was so weird. But I was sitting at a high top and he put his hand right on my hand and I looked up kind of surprised, and he looked right in my eyes and said, "I'd be so mad at myself if I didn't talk to you before I left. Can I get to know you better? Can I take you out this week?" And I was like, yes. Like no games. It lasted 30 seconds.
In and out.
In and out. And he did. And we ended up going on a date a couple weeks later. And then
The number was real.
it was a real number. And it was a whirlwind. It happened real fast. I mean, yeah, and here we are now. Our relationship escalated really quickly. We knew early on that this was something special. We were very clear about what we wanted in another person, and we found that in each other. And we had a beautiful wedding. It was very small and very intimate in a chapel, and it was beautiful, and it was very small and with our closest family members. And it all happened so quickly. And I don't think I could have gone through any of this without someone like you, without you. He was on a bachelor party for 2 weeks, and I had gone home to see my parents, and I thought something was up, if you know what I'm saying. So I just couldn't stand it. I took a test and found out I was pregnant. I was alone in my bathroom that I used to live, like in the house I grew up in. And I was like, I cannot tell him this. He's in Cabo on a bachelor party.
She told me, and my reaction was,
"Whose is it?" So rude. I didn't expect it though. I was just like, I gotta tell this guy that we're expecting a baby. And I think he's just gonna lose it. And all he does is say, "Whose is it?" And I was like, you gotta be kidding. But it broke the ice.
no,
it was
pretty
all funny.
It was all good news for the trajectory we wanted to be on. It was positive.
Everyone was happy for us. And yeah. I think he was probably the greatest thing that happened to us. So yeah, the pregnancy was pretty easy.
Went by very fast.
Yeah. Just can't believe this is happening. Brody was an amazing pregnancy. There were no issues. It was an easy pregnancy. He was so active. He loved strawberries, and we'd have cereal every morning, and he flipped around like crazy. You could see him in my belly just punching, trying to punch through. I thought he was gonna come out, and we would talk to him. He reacted to Michael's voice all the time when he heard it. And I was never considered a high-risk pregnancy. It was a very easy pregnancy with no issues. So by the time we finally started to prep for him, to wrap our brains around a baby is gonna be here in 2 to 3 weeks, it was over. We had a 36-week appointment, which indicated that he was great, and we were counting down to possibly inducing at 38 weeks due to just my blood pressure rising a little bit. And we had never been told that anything like this could have happened. It was never a conversation. So we're thinking we're gonna have a baby and we're gonna bring it home. We planned, the nursery, and I was already having conversations with pediatricians, and we were already getting on waiting lists for preschools, and we were planning little leagues and just talking about his life. And then one day I woke up and he'd stopped moving. I didn't think anything of it. I just knew that that wasn't right. Michael jumped in the car and drove me to the doctor. He dropped me off at the front because they weren't letting significant others or support people in due to COVID restrictions. So I ran inside. I said, I'll be right back. They proceeded to try to do an NST, which is a non-stress test, to see if they could pick up a heartbeat. And they claimed that the machine was broken. So they put me into the ultrasound room. And the tech basically said, what are you doing here? You were just here on 3 days ago. What's the big deal? What's going on? And then she tried to search for a heartbeat, and I could see him on the screen, and he wasn't moving. And she finally said the words that no mother wants to hear. I'm so sorry, Catherine, there's no heartbeat. To say that I left my body is an understatement. I had to call Michael to come up. We then had to deliver the news to him, so I had to hear the words again. The midwife said, I'm sorry, he's gone. And when they say that, you just, what do you mean he's gone? Like, what do you mean? And then proceeding through going into shock, and they then led us down the hallway to tell us that I needed to give birth now. Something that you don't think about while you process the fact that your baby's dead.
Yeah, that might have been the most difficult part after receiving news like that. You're really numb. You have that outer body experience, and it wasn't until those moments waiting to get to the hospital after that the really reality of the situation comes crashing forward, which was incredibly difficult. Just essentially contemplating not only what had just happened, but what the rest of our lives are going to be looking like from there.
I'm Sarah, and my husband Miles, and we lost our son Brody on October 12th, 2019. So we found out we were pregnant with Brody in February of 2019, and it was a huge surprise. I was only 6 months postpartum with our daughter Ansley, so we were not planning on having another child so soon. So our initial reaction was obviously probably shock. My pregnancy with Brody was very easy. There was no complications. I was actually already considered high risk due to a previously discovered blood clotting disorder before I even got pregnant. So I was already being seen by a high risk doctor. I was already getting multiple testing a week. I was at that point in my pregnancy, I was already getting 2 tests a week. So I was getting ultrasound, I was getting an NST. So I honestly thought, I knew that stillbirth existed, but in my mind, I was like, there's no way this is gonna happen to me when I'm already being so closely monitored. There's just no way that I'm being seen 2 times a week. They are doing ultrasounds. there was just no way that this could happen to me. You will have better days. It won't be this, what I remember saying this to Kat, and I say this to other women as well, is that it won't feel this hard forever. You know, it's never gonna go away. This is always gonna be something that we're gonna kind of carry the rest of our life, but it does get easier to handle. It doesn't get better, but it gets easier to manage and to handle that grief as the years pass.